My dear child, the very thing they designed to be your ending was never going to work. Not because the attack was not real, not because the pain did not land the way they intended it to, not because you were somehow untouchable and the blows glanced off without effect. They landed. Some of them went deep, but the fact that you are here, the fact that you are breathing and receiving and listening, is the evidence that what lives inside you is not something that their plans were ever equipped to destroy. Your victory will be so complete, you will forget the name of the pain. That is not a comfort phrase. That is not something spoken to get you through a hard moment and forgotten by the time the moment passes. That is a declaration from the only one who has ever held the full, unedited weight of your story in his hands and still said, without hesitation, without qualification, this one overcomes. I want to speak to the champion that is being formed inside you. Not the champion as a title you earn through accumulated performance. The champion as the expression of who you already are at your deepest level, which the difficult seasons have been in the process of bringing to the surface. When I look at your life from the perspective of the whole arc, I do not see someone still in the middle of the difficult chapter and hope for what comes after. I see the finished work. I see what you will be at the point where all that I am doing in you has been fully expressed. And from that vantage point, the word overcomer is not aspiration, it is description. You are already what you are becoming. The seed is already the tree. The process is already the destination, in the sense that who you are in the process is who you will be when the process completes, just more fully expressed. And the expression I see is someone who has turned the campaigns against them into the very material the elevated life is made of. Think about what it means to be capable of winning 1,000 battles, not as a single moment of dramatic triumph, as the accumulated life of someone who keeps choosing, in each small and large moment, to face what is in front of them rather than retreat from it. The kind of life lived in proximity to me is a life that accumulates capacity the way a river accumulates tributaries. Each one adds to the force of what is flowing. Each crossing of difficult terrain adds to the depth of the reserves. By the time the life is viewed in the full sweep of what it has been, the scale of what has been overcome is not the scale of a single brave moment. It is the scale of a life consistently aimed at what is true and good and faithful, in easy conditions and difficult ones. And the total of that is something extraordinary. Tell me you believe it. That is the request I am making right now. Not as a performance, not as the correct religious answer, as the honest expression of a will that has chosen to trust what I am saying over what everything else is saying. Say it. Let it be true in the place where it matters most, in the deep interior place, the place where the decision to believe is made. Because that decision, made consciously and spoken honestly, is a form of agreement with what I am doing in your life. And when you are in agreement with what I am doing, the work moves differently. Not because the agreement adds anything I was not already doing, but because agreement opens you to receive what I am already sending. It is time to be healed. Not someday, not eventually. Now, the permission has been given. The process is active. Every wound, the ones you know about and the ones you have not yet fully identified, every place of damage, every layer of pain is being addressed right now with my personal attention. Not from a distance, not through secondary means, with my own hands and my own presence and the full weight of what I am capable of bringing to the places that need restoration. And when the work is complete, it will be complete entirely. Not mostly done, not significantly better, complete. Walk forward without words of defeat in your mouth. The language you use to describe your own life, The narrative you speak over yourself in the private moments that no one else hears has more influence over your experience than most people realize. Not because words are magic, but because the words you repeat internally form the lens through which you interpret everything that happens to you. A person who consistently describes themselves as someone to whom bad things happen will find consistent evidence for that description, not because the evidence is manufacturing itself to match the narrative, but because the lens is selecting for what confirms it and filtering out what does not. And the person who speaks the truth over themselves, the truth that I have spoken, the truth that they are covered and valued and destined for something that their current circumstances cannot contain, that person begins to interpret the same circumstances differently, begins to see the opening that was invisible before, begins to recognize the movement that was there all along but went unnoticed because the lens was not adjusted to see it. So speak well over yourself, not with empty positivity that denies reality, with the actual language of what is true about you from my perspective. You are valued, you are covered, you are not abandoned, you are not forgotten. You are not the sum of what has been done to you or said about you. You are what I say you are. And what I say you are is someone headed toward a victory so complete that the name of the pain will be forgotten. And I want to say one more thing about this, because the version of me that many people carry in their minds is a version that is primarily concerned with correcting behavior, that responds to human failure primarily with disappointment or with disciplinary measure, that keeps a kind of cosmic ledger where the offenses are tallied against the obedience. That is not the accurate picture. The accurate picture is of a father who delights in the child, not grudgingly, not in spite of the child's imperfections, with genuine, wholehearted, overflowing delight. The kind of delight that looks at the child in the middle of an ordinary day, not during a moment of remarkable behavior, just during a regular moment of living, and finds that what is seen is simply good, worthy of celebration, worth the whole of what was poured into creating it. That is how I look at you. Not when you have earned it. In the middle of the ordinary, with everything visible, with full knowledge of every failure and every limitation, and every moment you were less than what you intended to be. Still with delight. Still with the certainty that what is here in front of me, in you, is exactly what I meant to make, and it is very good. Many people have spent seasons being angry with me. They have shouted into the air and accused me of things I did not do and indifference I did not feel. And still I love them. Still I wake them each day. Still I give them breath and thought and the capacity to choose. The anger does not make me angry back. The accusation does not make me defensive. The distance they put between themselves and me does not make me move away. I love them the same from the far side of their anger that I love them when they are close, because my love is not reactive. It is not a response to what is brought to me. It is the fixed thing, the thing that was true before they were born and will be true after every circumstance of their lives has changed and faded. But those who remain close, those who choose to maintain connection with me through the difficult seasons rather than letting the difficulty create distance, they receive access to something that those who have moved away cannot access from where they are. Not because I withhold it from them out of punishment, but because some things require proximity to receive. The warmth of a fire is real, but it is only available to those who have not walked to the far edge of the room. The protection I offer is real, but it is most effectively received by those who are walking close enough to be within the active sphere of what I am doing. And you are close. You are here. You have maintained the connection through things that would have pushed many people away. That has not gone unnoticed. There is a roaring adversary who moves through the world looking for the ones he can consume. And I want to be honest with you about this, rather than offering you a version of spiritual reality that ignores the genuine nature of the opposition you face. The adversary is real. His strategies are coordinated and intentional. He is not working randomly. He is looking for the ones who have let me out of their active awareness. Not because my protection stops operating, but because the armor of faith functions best when it is being consciously worn. And the ones who have moved to the periphery of connection with me have also moved to the periphery of the protection that connection provides. But this is not your situation. You are surrounded always by my favor and my mercy. Not sometimes. Not on the days when your faith feels strong. Always. Because my favor and my mercy are not contingent on the quality of your faith on a given day. They are contingent on who I am, and I do not change. And what this means for you in practical terms is that the adversary who moves through your environment looking for an opening does not find one in you. Not because you are doing everything perfectly. Not because your faith is flawless. Because you are covered by something that is not yours to maintain. My protection over your life is not a reward for your performance. It is a gift that came with your belonging to me. There is a prosperity I want to speak about here, not the shallow version of prosperity that reduces everything to financial accumulation and measures my faithfulness in terms of material acquisition. What I am talking about is the full, multi-dimensional flourishing that I intended for human life. The kind where the work of your hands produces fruit. The kind where the relationships in your life carry genuine love and genuine loyalty. The kind where your health supports the life I have given you rather than diminishing it. The kind where your mind is clear and your spirit is at peace, and your capacity for joy is not blocked by unprocessed grief. All of it. Every dimension. That is the prosperity I am describing when I say the pan in your house will not run out. The resources required for the life you are called to will not fail. The provision attached to my purpose for you is as reliable as my purpose itself, which has not changed and will not change. From this day forward, the first place in your life belongs to me, not as a religious formula, as a relational reality. The centering of your life around my presence, my word, my purpose, is not a constraint. It is the thing that makes everything else possible. When I am genuinely at the center, everything else can find its proper place around that center. The relationships that belong in your life can come. The ones that do not belong can leave without catastrophic loss. The work you are called to can be recognized. The provision that belongs to that work can come to it. The direction you need for the decisions you face can be received. All of that becomes navigable from the position of having me at the center. I offer you eternal life, not as a theological doctrine to be considered, as the actual solution to the deepest problem that human existence faces, which is its finitude, its ending, its inability to guarantee that anything built here will outlast the building. What I offer is not subject to that problem. What I offer is not bounded by the limits of the physical. It is participation in something that does not end. And anyone who comes to you with a promise of infinite happiness and infinite faithfulness that is bounded by the limits of the human condition is telling you something that cannot be sustained by what they are actually capable of. They do not have access to infinity. Only I do. Do not fall back into the traps that have already caught you. This is a practical warning spoken with love. You know the patterns now. You have learned, through what you went through, what the traps look like from the inside. The smiling face that conceals the empty promise. The offer that sounds like exactly what you need, but requires you to move away from what you know is true. the relationship that asks you to trust at a speed that bypasses the wisdom that your experience has given you. You have learned to recognize these things. That knowledge is not the wound. It is the gift that came with the wound. Use it. Let the discernment that suffering produced in you become the protection that keeps you from going back to what tried to destroy you. The wolf that comes against you will face something it is not prepared for. I defend those I love. I watch over those who belong to me with an attention that does not waver, and a readiness to act that is not delayed by distance or distraction. And the forces that come against a life that is genuinely covered by my protection encounter something they have no sufficient answer for. This is not a metaphor. This is the practical description of how spiritual reality works in relation to the people I have claimed as my own. Your pain is being forgotten, not erased from history, but removed from the present tense. The wound that has been taking up space in your present experience, draining energy that belongs to what I am building in you now, is losing its authority over your life. The grief is lifting. The weight of accumulated disappointment is being transferred to my shoulders. Not metaphorically, genuinely. The emotional and spiritual weight of what you have been carrying that was never meant for you to carry alone is being taken from you. And what you will find in the place where that weight used to be is not emptiness. It is the specific opposite of what the weight was. Where the heaviness was, there will be lightness. Where the grief was, there will be a joy that is not dependent on circumstances to sustain itself. Where the exhaustion was, there will be a strength that comes from the same source I draw from, which does not have a bottom. All of your being will be filled with great joy. I want you to believe that, not as a future possibility, as a thing I am specifically moving toward in your life right now. Joy, genuine joy, the kind that is not a mood and is not the product of things going well, but is the deep settled certainty that you are loved and held and headed somewhere good, is available to you. It is not on the far side of all the resolutions. It is not something you receive as the prize at the end. It is available now, in the middle of the unresolved, in the center of the waiting, in the heart of the difficult season. Because it is not sourced in the circumstances. It is sourced in what is eternally true, which does not change when circumstances change. Now, I want to speak to the marks that are still present, the residue of what was pressed into you with intention, the shame that settled into places built for something else, the rancor that took up residence in spaces that were supposed to be filled with peace. Not to dwell there, not to turn over every detail of how each mark was made, but to say clearly that the process of their removal has already begun. Not just the visible damage, not just the parts you are aware of that need work. Everything, down to the layers you have not yet identified, down to the ways the damage shaped your behavior and your expectations and your sense of what is possible without you ever fully realizing the connection. I am working at that depth, and when I am finished, the work will be complete. Not approximate, not mostly done, complete. The marks will not remain. This is a promise I am making to you today, with full weight behind it. Not because you will pretend they were not there, not because you will construct a narrative that denies what happened, but because what I bring to the places of damage is not just repair, it is replacement. The space that was occupied by shame will be occupied by dignity. The space that was occupied by rancor will be occupied by peace. The space that was occupied by confusion about your own worth will be occupied by a settled, unshakable understanding of your value that does not depend on being confirmed by anyone outside of me. That is the transformation. That is what is underway. Faith has a role in this, Not faith as the performance of certainty you do not feel, not faith as the suppression of honest doubt, but faith as the decision, made repeatedly and consciously, to act on what I have said rather than on what the circumstances appear to be saying. And the more consistently that decision is made, the more the internal landscape shifts, not all at once, in layers, like light coming into a room that has been dark for a long time. At first, it is just the faint outline of things. Then gradually the details emerge, and eventually the room is fully lit, and you cannot remember, not in an emotional sense, not in a feeling sense, what it was like when everything was in the dark. And I want you to understand something about the specific faith that is required right now, in this season, in the territory you are currently in. The faith being asked of you is not the faith of someone at the beginning of a journey who has not yet encountered significant resistance. That faith is real, but it is relatively uncomplicated. What is being asked of you now is the faith of someone who has encountered the resistance, who has felt the force of it, who has been shaken by it, and who chooses to keep moving forward anyway. That is a different quality of faith, and it is the quality that produces the specific kind of result I am describing. The testimony that comes from that faith is not the testimony of someone who found it easy. It is the testimony of someone who found it hard and kept going and discovered at the far side of the difficulty that what they had been trusting was exactly as trustworthy as they had been choosing to believe. That testimony reaches places that the easy version cannot reach. The problems you see right now are not evidence that the process has stalled. They are not evidence that my promise is delayed, or that the obstacles are stronger than what I said. The problems you see are the sound of something that has been losing its grip on you and knows it. When a hand that has been holding something tightly is finally forced to let go, the release is not quiet. There is noise in it. There is resistance in the final stages of letting go that can feel more intense than the resistance at the beginning. And what you are sometimes experiencing as the intensification of the opposition is actually the sign that ground is being gained. The desperation in what is working against you is the signal that the territory is changing in your favor. Your faith must remain firm. Not because I am requiring a performance of unwavering positivity, but because faith is the mechanism by which you stay connected to what is actually happening at the level that matters most. Doubt does not make the process stop, but doubt does make you less able to navigate within it. It makes you more susceptible to the misinterpretation of the resistance as evidence of failure. It makes the waiting harder than it needs to be, and it distances you from the supply of peace that is available to you right now, regardless of circumstances. The peace that passes, the kind of understanding that would need circumstances to be resolved before it could exist. So make the decision to believe, not once as a declaration that has to hold indefinitely under all conditions. Repeatedly. Every time the doubt surfaces, make it again. Every time the circumstances seem to be arguing against what I have said, make it again. Every time someone in your environment says something that sounds like confirmation of the worst case, make it again. The decision to believe is not a feeling. It is an act of the will. And the repeated exercise of that act of the will is itself part of what is reshaping you from the inside. I do not give you stones when you ask for bread. I want to be very direct about my character here. There is a version of theology that casts me as a God who gives difficulty primarily, who uses hardship as the main tool of formation, who is more interested in testing than in providing. That is not who I am. I am a father. When a child comes to a good father hungry and asks for something to eat, the good father does not give them something that will hurt them. The good father reaches toward the best thing he has available and gives it to the child. That is the disposition I have toward you. Every single time you have come to me with need, my first instinct has been to give you the good thing, not the hard lesson, not the disciplinary response, the good thing. And when the path has been difficult, when the things you asked for did not come in the form or the timing you expected, it has not been because I changed my mind about what I want for you. It has been because what I want for you is so specifically good, so exactly right, so precisely fitted to who you are and where you are going, that the delivery sometimes requires a path that does not look like the most direct route to what you asked for. The gift I am preparing for you is not a lesser version of what you hoped for. It is the actual thing. And the actual thing sometimes takes longer to arrive because more is being put together in its preparation than you can see from where you are standing. Think about the father who loves his child. This father is not sitting in a back room somewhere thinking about what difficulty to introduce next. He is thinking about the child's future. He is thinking about the obstacles ahead that he can already see, and the child cannot yet see. He is thinking about which relationships will matter and which ones will not, and how to position the child to encounter the right ones at the right time. He is thinking about the open doors, the ones that require arriving in a particular state of readiness that the child has not yet achieved. He is working actively toward all of it, not as an engineer who cares only about the outcome and ignores the person in the process, as a father who cares about both the destination and what happens to the child along the journey. And he is working toward the best possible version of both. I am that father. I am thinking about your future with the full scope of what I know, which is everything there is to know, and with the full force of what I want for you, which is good things, not punishment, not arbitrary seasons of suffering to teach arbitrary lessons. A real path toward a real destination that is genuinely good, genuinely prepared, genuinely meant for you specifically. Let me speak to what happens in you when you keep going in spite of everything. When you choose faith in the middle of a season that has given you every reasonable excuse to stop choosing it. When you get up and show up and continue believing when the most logical response to your circumstances would have been to conclude that the promise was not real and the hope was not warranted. Something happens in you in those moments that nothing else produces. A kind of strength that has its own specific character. Not the strength of someone who has not been tested, who is strong in the way that an untouched structure is strong, without knowing what it can survive, but the strength of something that has been tested and held. The kind of strength that knows its own limits, knows where those limits were exceeded, and knows that in the exceeding the source held even when the natural capacity ran out. That is what you have, not despite the difficult seasons. Because of them, in the specific sense that they were the context in which this particular quality of strength was developed. And that strength is not incidental to what I am building in you. It is central to it. It is part of the equipment you need for the places I am taking you, and you will not be marked by what you survived. Let me be clear about this because it matters. The scars of what you went through are not going to be your permanent identification. They are not going to be the first thing that defines you when people encounter who you are. They are not going to be the lens through which your future is interpreted. The story that others tried to write on your body and your soul, the story of defeat and shame and permanent damage, that is not the story I am telling about you. And the story I am telling is the one that will be visible, the one that will be read by the people who come into contact with your life from this point forward. They will see someone who is alive and full and forward-facing and marked by love, not by loss. The harvest I am describing is not an abstraction. It is the concrete, visible, tangible result of everything that has been planted through this season of faith. When you have wept over what you were building, when you have kept going without being able to see where the going was leading, when you have chosen trust in the dark, Something was being planted in that territory, not accidentally, with the full intention of producing something real at the time of harvest. And the harvest comes with a quality that is proportional to the cost of the planting. The things that cost the most in the planting come back with the greatest abundance at the harvest. What you have invested through difficulty, through the sustained choice to keep believing, is not lost. It has been accumulating in the ground of what I am building in your life. And the harvest of it is going to be the kind that makes people who knew you in the hard seasons stand and look at what your life has become with their mouths open, because they will know what it cost to plant it. And they will see that the return was everything I said it would be. Take my embrace. I am reaching toward you now, not with instruction or with correction, but with the simple, full weight of a father's love for a child he adores. Not because you have arrived at some threshold of sufficient faithfulness, because you are mine. And the ones who are mine receive my embrace not as a reward for performance, but as the constant reality of what we are to each other. Come into it. Do not hold yourself at the edge of it, out of a sense that you have not earned it, or that the embrace is for people who are further along than you are. It is for you. Now, in this exact state, with everything you are carrying and everything you have not yet worked through, and everything about your life that still needs what only I can bring to it. Come. This is the time of your victory. Your victory will be so complete. You will forget the name of the pain. This is the word I am giving you. This is the reality that is moving toward you. This is the truth about your life, as seen from the position I occupy, where the whole picture is visible and the outcome is known. Reach toward it with both hands. Grip what I am offering. Let it change the quality of your expectation. Let it change the color of the days ahead. Let it work in you until the level of hope you carry matches the level of what I have actually prepared for you, which is more than you have allowed yourself to believe. Persist in your faith through the rest of this season, not as a spiritual discipline that you perform to stay in good standing with me, as the living expression of a relationship that has been tested and proved real. Every day that you continue in that trust, every day that you face what is in front of you with the knowledge that I am with you and that I am working, is another day of building in the direction of what is coming. The accumulation is real. The direction is fixed. The destination is assured. And I will be with you every step of the road, between where you stand right now and the place where the victory becomes visible in its fullness. Not watching from a distance, present, active, speaking into the moments that are hard, celebrating in the moments that reveal what I have been building, holding what is heavy when the weight is more than one person was designed to carry alone. Every step, all the way. Amen. If this word has spoken to your heart today, do not keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who is in the middle of exactly the kind of season this message is for. Type Amen in the comments and receive this blessing over your life. And if you want to go deeper into the words God is speaking over your life in this season, there is a devotional resource in the description below created to carry this kind of message further into your daily life. Subscribe so that no message reaches you too late. You are not here by accident. Every word shared on this channel is meant for you, for this moment, for exactly where you are.